Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Reginald the Vampire, Season 2, Episode 7. A great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. This episode had me in my feels. This episode was so emotional and sad. Like, I was literally on the verge of tears multiple times. So it's been 2 weeks since the last episode, like, timeline-wise, in universe. I didn't even think about, like, oh man, how much time, like, they literally didn't have left. It's like, this episode revolves around them only having, like, 2 days left before Balestros shows up to wipe them all out. But, yeah, they've been trying to track down Uriel the entire time, and Todd's been a mess since losing Mike. And for Maurice, it's like all he has is his revenge. Because for him, it's like, I mean, let's not forget Mike was someone that was important to him. Like, obviously, things were complicated when it's like, oh, he was the one spying on Maurice for Angela. But it's like, yeah, that was someone he still cared about. And they eventually were on good terms and everything. But the fact is, Maurice is alone in this moment. Like, everyone else kind of has someone. Claire, despite her mom being gone, her dad, just not being around, she has Ashley and Nikki. The fact of the matter is, Sarah and Reginald have each other. Like, Maurice and Todd are the only ones that are sadly alone in this situation, because Angela's in Italy living up her best life, like as she talked about last episode, what she was going to do. And so for Maurice, it's like, I can't sit around and just, like, his way of dealing with things is kind of running away from his emotions. It's like, I can't do anything for Todd. In his mind, it's like, the best thing I could do for Todd is find, like, Uriel and make him pay. And it's like, that's a better way to spend our time, considering, like, we have such little time left at this point. Once again, only have, like, 2 or 3 days, like, throughout the episode, so. And, in that scene with Todd was heartbreaking, where, he's, like, talking to Mike's ashes, and he's just, like, he's been locked up in the slushy shack, like since Mike died, with his ashes. And he's, like, he's like, why didn't you turn me? He's like, yeah, I might have died with you, but at least, like, he's like, without you, for him, it's like, you were the better person. Like, why should you be gone and I'm still here? The fact is, he's like, I'm a coward. I didn't do anything. I could have protected you. I should have protected you, but I didn't. And now you're gone. And it's almost like, what's the point, right now? And Todd's just heartbroken, sad, and just lost in this moment. And it's interesting how that parallels with Maurice's story, because Maurice ends up meeting a woman who is dealing with a rent situation in her apartment building. The landlord's trying to, like, get the tenants to move out, but not all of them has, so they ended up going on strike and not going to pay the rent. But he ended up hitting her, and because Maurice is in his vigilante bag, so he's like, hey, whoever it is, let me beat him up for you. And she's like, no. In the end, she's like, I'm going to keep fighting a good fight, which Maurice can understand that, obviously, his Black Panther roots, which I love that he was like, oh yeah, like, oh, what they, he had told, like, a history about, like, kind of a similar thing in the past. And it's like, oh, what, it's like, yeah, my dad was part of the Black Panthers and kind of dealt with that, obviously talking more about himself, but she kind of gave him a different viewpoint on everything, because he was out for revenge. And he was even saying, like, why didn't you ever hit the landlord back? Because she's like, if I hit him, I'm going to stoop down to his level. And it's like, we can fight, sure, but we don't have to become them to do it. And that, it feels like that is part of the overarching larger Balestros conversation, and especially with all the stuff with Uriel, because it's like, yes, Maurice is a vampire, but he's proven himself to be an honorable person time and time again. So it's like, right, you don't have to stoop down to those monsters level. Like, Balestros want to call you a monster. He's the one that's about to genocide an entire species because he views you because of his personal view on you. What about someone like Uriel, who's done what he's done? It's not like he's a, so. But I think it's meant to more so probably directly parallel the Uriel thing of, like, you going after Uriel was just playing into, like, he wants to call you a monster, view you as monsters like Balestros does. And it's like, by going after him, getting your revenge, you're just going to feed into that narrative. So it was kind of an important thing, especially, and I doubt it was by accident. The woman he met has the same name as his mom, so it's like that wasn't an accident. It was meant to be the universe trying to teach him something. Now, not unless that was someone, and like we find out that's later on, like that was an angel in disguise or something like that, trying to reach out to Maurice to stop him. Like it seemed too. But I mean, it could just be like, once again, it could just be the universe pulling strings to make that happen. Who knows? Because like I said, Balestros kind of makes it seem like this is all a test for the vampire species, but I just don't know if that really is the case or not, or whether he is like, oh, I'm disappointed, I'm really going to kill you. Because he makes it seem like, oh, you've had time to try and change, but you didn't. You wasted your time trying to trap me and kill me, so I'm sit and wait type of thing. So with all this going on, we have Nikki and Ashley having, basically, it's April. I was like, oh, are we really at Christmas at this point in time? I was like, no, it's April, but, they won't live long enough to get to Christmas, so they're having, it's kind of a first family Christmas, Ashley, Nikki, and Claire, and because they're still unclear about what Claire's role in all of this is, how she is the key. And it's fine and dandy, and they're enjoying themselves. It's actually really adorable. It's like, wait, did you let her drink that eggnog? It's like, yeah. It's like, yeah, but it's rum eggnog. And it's like, oh, here's some dead gingerbread cookies. It's like, don't only eat one because you don't want to spoil appetite. I was like, that's so sweet. Like Nikki getting all parental like that, but that ends up being the thing where Ashley's like they're overwhelmed because it's like, right, I'm about to lose the person I love in Nikki, and am I going to be trying to raise Claire on my own? It's like, you're not raising a regular, like you're not raising a small child, you're raising a preteen, because she's like, Claire's 13, and it's just something that Ashley doesn't think they're prepared for, and it's like, I'm going to screw it up because you're better at this parent thing than I am, and I'm just going to mess it up. It's just like Ashley got too much in their own head and said like, right, I'm raising like a half human, half incubus, and I don't know what I'm doing. It's not like Ashley doesn't care about Claire, but it's just like they just got scared and overwhelmed of like, I'm scared I'm going to mess things up. I'm not going to be there responsible. It's going to be hard doing this alone, and that's the point Nikki gets across to Claire. Like, no one parenting alone is going to be tough, but it's like, you're not going to be alone. Because Ashley is going to be on Team Claire, but Claire's like, yeah, but I don't really have a team. It's like, yes, you do. You'll have Todd and you'll have Sarah. Kind of, it's like, right, the rest of like the team that showed up for her mom's death and everything and was there for the funeral and stuff. It's like that team, sadly, a good chunk of them are going to die because of Balestros. So, but Claire ends up leaving. My initial thought was, and it kind of ties into it, but it's like Claire leaves. I thought it was the thing, I'd rather leave before you leave, but as she explains to Reggie, like, I just want them to be able to spend their time together without having to worry about me. Their last days together, they should be focused on each other and not me. Which, that whole thing is really like, and they're sad about Claire being gone, but find out later on she's staying with her dad, which are happy about that, but it's still kind of like they miss her. Little gifts, the little nose and reindeer antlers, but then they're gifts for each other. Like, Nikki left Ashley a doll of herself with some recordings. I was like, that's so fucking adorable, dude. I was like, that is, once again, those are the type of gifts that matter. I was like, especially knowing you're going to be gone. And Ashley gave Nikki a necklace with her blood, and it's with their blood being like, right, when you die, a part of me dies with you. And I was like, it's just so sweet and romantic. And so like, oh, the couple stuff is so adorable in this show. It's like, oh, it's such a gut punch, a punch to the heart. Especially like Claire and Reggie, like, Reginald's trying to like get Claire to kind of stick, because he's like, I know like you're the key to all of this, but she's like, I got lightning coming out of my fingers. Like, isn't that kind of enough of like, it's like, I don't know what I can do. We none of us know what to do about this situation. And Reginald's like, right, you should basically get to spend time with your dad. And she's just kind of like, I'll be seeing you. And he's like, yeah, you can stop by any time. And he's like, I've got a feeling, Claire, like we will see each other again. She's like, you promise? And he pinky promises. And when she leaves, he goes, bye, Claire. And you're just like, oh, because he said like, right, you were the first person that got to know my secret. She's like, yeah, you ate all the hamburger in our fridge. And then she's like, yeah, that's it. He's like, not only are you, he's like, you're my best friend. In fact, you're kind of my like first and only friend. And then you're just like, and them hugging. I'm like, like I said, this episode is trying to break me. It was like I said, I was tearing up. I was getting super emotional. Once again, like lovey-dovey stuff and friendship, and I'm a sap for all that stuff. And it's just like, this was, like I said, probably the most emotional episode of the series so far. And I was just like, it's kind of rough all around. I mean, you have the Sarah and Reggie stuff where it's like they're being super sweet and adorable. They're actually going to go camping, but with everything going on, it's like, should we really get away? So they kind of do indoor camping. I love the fake flames. They've got the marshmallows over, and he got her a gift. It was kind of a necklace with like a surfboard, and because it's like, right, let's go to, like, when something happens to me, you need to like go to Mexico and kind of live that dream that we wanted to live together. And just like that expression on her face, like she's so heartbroken, where he's like, okay, let's change the subject, to get to stare up at like the stars in the sky together inside. And it's just like, oh, the clouds have cleared, and let's look at it again. I'm just like, that's so sweet, dude. But then sadly later on, Uriel shows up and kidnaps Sarah, because he's kind of blaming her, but he's also trying to put the blame aside, being like, well, I love you and I care about you, not realizing he doesn't know enough about humans. He thinks he learned enough about humans because all he's got now is all this heartbreak. And so that's what heartbreak does. I mean, I know firsthand, time and time again, it's like when you go through a breakup, and especially if it's kind of a nasty breakup, for whatever reasons it may be, all you might do in the past, end up focusing only on the negative, and that's all he's focusing on right now are the negative emotions. Not the, if you love someone, if you love something, let it go, and it will come back to you if it was meant to be, type of thing, right? He doesn't know that concept. He doesn't understand enough human stuff. So all he's focusing on is what he wants. He's not apologetic about killing Mike. You would hope that he felt bad, but it's like, for Sarah, it's like, you killed Mike. He was a good person, but it's like, in your eyes, he was just a monster. You go like, this isn't very angelic of you. The whole thing of, oh, I've fallen. He was like, Raphael told me that you would corrupt me, and that's what you did. And she's like, no, you're corrupting yourself. At the end of the day, that's the beauty of being humans. It's the free will thing that kind of goes along, because Uriel gained his own free will, and see what he's done with it. You have helped out. You try to be like, you were there for Claire. Like, you showed to be like, hey, you're a decent person. But the moment things didn't work out the way you wanted them to, you crashed out and went batshit crazy, and you're lashing out. And now you're trying to kidnap Sarah. You're trying to force her to love you. But for her, it's like, I will never love you. I will love Reginald. Like, everything you want to give me, you can't give me, because like you want to claim to be this or that, and everything that you aren't is what Reginald is. And it's like, no, he is imperfect. He tries to do stuff for me and be there for me and love me sometimes at the right time, sometimes at the wrong time, but still, like, the fact is that he tries and he understands me, he tries to be there for me, and that's the big thing there. He tries, and it's like, how much is Uriel trying? It's like, well, things didn't work out, and just like, oh, let me go full crazy mode, psycho mode, because in his mind, he doesn't see what he's doing wrong. It's like, let me protect you. I'm regarding Angel. They even had that conversation about prayers, and she was like, he literally told her already, like, oh, your prayers there's no guardian angel to hear your prayers. Like, that's not how it works. But he's trying to make it seem like, well, I heard your prayers. And she's like, no, you didn't. My prayers went up to the sky and reached no one. He's like, well, reach one person that's like reaching all angels. And it's like, right. He's like, whatever you want that Reginald can give you, I can give it to you too. And she's like, how about freedom? And he does ultimately let her go, but I think that was probably the long end. Like, that was the long game. Let her go, give them some sense of being okay and everything's fine, just to kind of rip that away from them later. Like, he's in it. I wasn't expecting Yuri, like, well, eventually, like, where things where I was like, oh, like, after the heartbreak, I was like, oh, and him, it was when he talked to, like, Balestros and was kind of, like, praying, like, oh, I've fallen, I'm sorry. That's when I was like, oh, he's going to go batshit crazy going for it. But I wasn't, like, he seemed like he might be the good guy in all of this. And he proved himself with the Claire thing, but in this situation, he's wrong. And he shows up. And he's not here for Reginald, he's there for Sarah. It seemed like he basically took her soul. The way, like, maybe that was her life force, whatever. I see blue energy, I interpret that. I guess, like, in my head, because of certain video games and Final Fantasy VII, because, like, the live stream and everything like that. But, like, Kingdom Hearts, you have green health. It's like, well, it's orange in the Trails. Well, all the Kaseki games, it's orange, reddish orange, and then like your CP is green. But either way, you get what I'm saying. I associate green with life and blue with like the soul. So I'd assume like he took her soul and then he basically made her body disappear. I don't know if he like I don't know if he has it stored somewhere. Like the way he made it disappear, like she turned into light. So I don't know if he destroyed her body or scattered it to like and turn her into pure energy, or did he stash her body somewhere? But now it's like, yeah, not Claire, but Sarah's mine now, and bounces off, and just Reginald's like so desperate to get her back that he's willing to use that spell book, and just that look he gives Maurice when just once again that I think that's such a beautiful vampire thing. It's so tragic, but like the imagery of just like a vampire like crying tears of blood, because I want to say once again I still need to like watch this season of Interview with the Vampire, because I can't remember. I think they cried tears of blood in that. I definitely know it's a True Blood thing. I don't remember if that was a thing in Let the Right One In, the TV show, because I haven't seen the movie in such a long time. Well, either movie, whether it's the original Swedish one or whether it's the Matt Reeves North American remake with Let Me In. Either way, just like him just being like, right, if you're not going to help me, Maurice, then just get the hell out of my way. You know, he's desperate to do whatever he can, but Maurice had warned him, like, if you do something from that book, you have no idea what the downside to that would be. I mean, the whole thing is bringing someone back to life. There was always going to be a cost anyway. It cost one life to bring back another, but we're talking a little something. I mean, that's already a cosmic imbalance complication, but then you add in like the X factor. Well, it was because of an angel that changes things too. But yeah, even if you bring Sarah back, who's to say she'd be right? Like, she might come back without a soul, a la, you know, some supernatural stuff, or it could be like she comes back as a zombie. Like there's just so much there. There's also the because Todd wanted to get transformed into a vampire when they were initially looking for Claire. I keep doing that. Sorry, Sarah. But they chose not to, because it's like, right, Sarah's going to need someone when Reg goes. And it's like, you need to be there for her. So you need to stay human, because even if you get transformed now, you're going to be useless until like that whole transformation process is done. And even then, you're going to be dead in like 2 more days with the rest of us. So no. But later on, him and Maurice had that moment, and it makes sense. These are people who knew Mike and cared for Mike, and because Todd doesn't know what to do with Mike's ashes. Like, obviously you would spread them, but he just doesn't know what to do. And Maurice brought him one of the shirts from Mike's band that we learned about like last episode, I believe. And I thought that was so sweet. It's like, wait, they had merch? It's like, yeah, they did. And he tells this story about Mike in was it Scotland or Ireland, and one of their shows, and it was just kind of nice. I think Todd getting to hear a little bit more about Mike, but he's almost kind of like, yeah, he's gone, but Maurice is kind of, and I will always attribute this to that I will always go back to the episode 5 of season 1 of What If, the TV show, that line, the final line from T'Challa in that episode, and it is like, those we are lost are never truly gone as long as we are here to remember. As long as we remember them, they are never truly gone. And that's a moment that Maurice has with Todd, which also starts making me tear up, is that moment of Reg, me, Nikki, and Angela, like, we're all going to disappear and no one's going to be able to remember us. So it's up to you to keep us alive by having someone remember us. Like, you know, Mike is never going to be truly gone because you're going to be here to remember him. The same thing for all of us. We're going to need someone to remember us so that it's proof that we existed, that we lived. And Todd's like, I promise no one will ever forget. And then they spread Mike's ashes, and it's just like them kind of like holding each other through that. I was like, once again, tears like welling in my eyes. I was like, fight back the tears, because it's like, it was just so visceral and just so heartbreaking, but there's beauty to it. Yeah, but when this is all said and done, the episode ends on a wait, what type of moment, where basically Reginald disappears. You're like, what happened? Then Nikki disappears, and then so does Maurice, and they end up in kind of like what seemed like it might be purgatory, which has been my theory about that's where Mike was, but we got the end of the episode where it turns out Sarah's in the exact same spot. So maybe by being killed by an angel, you automatically go to purgatory. I mean, because what the place they're in looks like the place that Reg, Maurice, and Nikki are in. Because interestingly enough, I mean, we might find out Angela secretly got sent there too, but just like the actress who plays her wasn't in this episode, so maybe next episode she'll be there. But yeah, like why these three specifically? You know, aside from just being like kind of our core cast, like why these three in particular? I mean, like I said, besides just being like the three vampires that are left, but it's like why them? So I think we'll find out Angela's there. So I don't know if that's the same liminal space that Mike and Sarah are in. I wonder, can they run into each other, or are they kind of locked in? Is it supposed to be like a heaven where like your heaven is like going by supernatural standards, like, oh, your heaven is your solo heaven, so wherever Mike is, it's isolated from Sarah, but to be fair, she is human, so for her to end up in the same spot. Because in my head, I talked about it at last episode too. When I think of purgatory, I think about the supernatural purgatory, which in that show is a literal purgatory for supernaturals that when they die, they go there because there's no like heaven or hell for them really. So, but for Mike to be where he is, okay, he's a vampire, but Sarah's human. So, like I said, that must be some place that if you're touched or killed by an angel, it takes you there. Obviously, there's just a lot we don't know about this situation, so we'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode takes us with all of this, which, once again, the clock is ticking down that all of this is happening right when Balestros is going to do his thing. Once again, the whole point was like the strike of midnight, so it was like during the day, I believe, when they all got snatched at the end of the episode, so this isn't Balestro, at least it doesn't appear to be, so... Well, not unless this is just kind of purely a Uriel thing. Not unless it could also be a byproduct of the spell that Reggie cast. Like, maybe that's what this was, because the timing is interesting. So, like I said, we'll have to wait to see what the answer ultimately is for all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.